My brother mailed me a black velvet wedding invitation with a $12,000 family honor fee printed beside my name, plus a mandatory $3,000 luxury gift minimum. When I replied with one sentence, "I will not be attending," my father called and said I had 24 hours to pay, apologize, and remember my place in this family. I did not argue. I did not cry. I opened the private vendor portal for the wedding and canceled every payment I had been secretly making for 6 months. By midnight, the florist walked away. By 1 in the morning, the string quartet vanished. By 2:30, Willowbrook Manor locked their date. Then my brother Derek screamed into my voicemail, asking why his perfect wedding was falling apart, and I finally understood something. They had mistaken my silence for weakness. Before I tell you how the wedding collapsed, comment where you are watching from. Hit like and subscribe if you have ever had a family member treat your kindness like a weakness they owned. My name is Natalie Whitman. I am 34 years old, and for most of my life, my family knew me as the quiet daughter, the responsible one, the one who never made a scene, the one who somehow fixed everyone else's disaster. That was the version of me they liked best. Small, useful, silent. What they did not know, or refused to know, was that I had spent the last decade building a life they could not control. I owned a private investment company in Chicago, commercial real estate, and enough money to ignore disrespect forever. But family can make successful people feel like scared children, especially when they trained you to earn love through sacrifice. My younger brother, Derek, was the golden child. Charming when he wanted something, helpless when responsibility arrived, and somehow forgiven before he apologized. When Derek dropped out of college, my mother said he was finding himself. When he wrecked my father's car, my father said boys make mistakes. When he lost 3 jobs, they said he was too talented to work under ordinary people. But when I graduated top of my class, bought my first condo, and started my own firm, they acted like my success was a problem. Derek joked that I just moved numbers around for rich people. Everyone laughed. I did not. In my family, Derek's failures were temporary weather. My achievements were personality flaws. So when the invitation arrived at my office on a rainy Thursday morning, I expected arrogance. I did not expect an invoice pretending to be family. The envelope was thick and dramatic. Black velvet paper, gold lettering, a wax seal stamped D&B for Derek and Brianna. Inside was a glossy invitation to witness Derek Whitman and Brianna Collins marry at Willowbrook Manor, a private estate famous for celebrity weddings and prices that made normal people stop breathing. The invitation was ridiculous, but not surprising. Brianna loved luxury. Derek loved looking rich. My parents loved pretending our family belonged near luxury. Then I saw the smaller card tucked behind the RSVP envelope. At the top, in elegant black script, it said, "Family Honor Contribution." Below that was my name, Natalie Whitman. Beside it was the amount, $12,000. Underneath was another line, "Mandatory Registry Gift Minimum, $3,000. At the bottom, a note said immediate family must contribute appropriately to preserve the dignity of the Whitman name and secure premium reception seating. I read it 3 times. $12,000 to attend, $3,000 minimum for a gift, $15,000 to sit in a chair and watch Derek pretend to be a man he had never worked hard enough to become. I set the card down on my desk. Then I laughed once. Not because it was funny, because something inside me had finally snapped clean. Years ago, that card would have sent me into panic. I would have called my mother and asked why family love always came with a bill when it involved me. But I was not that woman anymore. I opened the wedding RSVP portal, clicked decline, and typed my reason in the small box provided. I do not pay admission to be disrespected. Then I closed my laptop and walked into a meeting worth more than Derek's entire wedding. 37 minutes later, my mother called 6 times. I let every call go to voicemail. Then my father texted, "Pay your share or face consequences." I read the message while reviewing an $8 million property proposal. My father still believed he could scare me, while half of Derek's wedding existed only because my company credit line had quietly fed it for months. Here is what nobody in my family knew. 3 months after Derek got engaged, my mother called crying. Deposits were due, Brianna's parents were asking questions, Derek was overwhelmed, and the family would be humiliated if the wedding looked cheap. Her exact words were, "Natalie, you know how people talk. This is your brother's one big day. We just need help getting through the deposits. I should have said no. Instead, I asked how much. That was always my weakness, not stupidity. Hope. Some pathetic part of me still believed that if I rescued them enough, one day they would see a daughter instead of an emergency fund. My mother promised it was temporary. She said they would reimburse me after Derek's bonus came in. Derek had no bonus, but I pretended not to know. She asked me to keep my help quiet because Derek was sensitive about feeling less successful than Brianna's family. I agreed under one condition. No one would be told. No speeches, no praise, no control. I just wanted peace. That was my first mistake. Peace with people who exploit you is not peace. It is surrender wearing perfume. The first payment was the deposit for Willowbrook Manor. $24,000. Then came the caterer, florist, photographer, videographer, lighting team, string quartet, guest transportation, imported linens, cake designer, security, and an open bar package so expensive, I stared before paying it. Every invoice came to my business account for tracking. By the time that black velvet envelope landed on my desk, I had already paid $78,000. Derek had paid nothing. My parents had paid almost nothing. Brianna's family believed Derek was covering most of it himself, and now they wanted $15,000 more from me. At 5 that afternoon, my mother finally left a voicemail worth saving. Natalie, stop embarrassing yourself. Your brother deserves this day. Pay the fee tonight, buy something generous from the registry, and we can pretend you did not make this ugly. I listened twice. Not because I needed to suffer, because evidence should always be clear. Then I opened the vendor portal. The first invoice was for the florist. $9,800 remaining. I clicked Cancel Authorization. The second was the string quartet. $4,200. Cancel. The luxury shuttle service. $6,000. Cancel. The champagne supplier. Cancel. The lighting team. Cancel. The bridal suite stylist. Cancel. The photographer's second installment. Cancel. The cake balance. Cancel. Every cancellation required a reason. I wrote the same sentence each time. Client misrepresented payment responsibility. It took 22 minutes to erase 6 months of invisible labor. At 8:14 p.m., the florist emailed Derek and Brianna. Their balance was no longer authorized. At 8:39, transportation warned them. At 9:05, lighting paused. At 9:48, Willowbrook Manor said their booking was at risk. My phone began buzzing like a trapped insect. Derek texted first. What did you do? I did not respond. Then Brianna. Natalie, I do not know what game you are playing, but this is not funny. I made tea. Then my mother called from Derek's number. I answered and put it on speaker. Her voice was sharp enough to cut glass. Fix this immediately. I said. Fix what? Do not act stupid with me. Vendors are emailing Derek. Payments are failing. That sounds stressful. You agreed to help. I agreed to help. I did not agree to be charged $15,000 to attend a wedding I was already funding. My father grabbed the phone. You are making a mistake. No, I said. I made the mistake 6 months ago. I am correcting it now. Families do not keep score. I looked at the spreadsheet on my screen. Every payment was labeled, dated, and documented. You kept score when you put a price beside my name. Silence followed. Not guilt. Calculation. Then Derek came on the phone, breathing hard. You cannot cancel my wedding. You owe me. That was the moment I stopped feeling sad. I owe you? I asked. Yes, you have money. No kids, no husband, no real family. What else are you going to do with it? There are sentences that close doors forever. That was one of them. I said, Good night, Derek. Then I ended the call. The next morning, chaos had structure. Willowbrook Manor demanded $41,000 to keep the date. The caterer required a wire by noon. The florist released their flowers to another client. The photographer withdrew under a contract clause. The shuttle company refused refunds. Derek called me 12 times. Brianna sent paragraphs. My mother sent Bible verses about forgiveness. My father sent one message. You will regret humiliating this family. I forwarded everything to my attorney, Marcus Reed. Marcus had handled my business contracts for 5 years, and he had the calmest voice I knew. After reading the files, he called me and said, "Natalie, did they know the money was yours?" My mother knew. My father probably knew enough to stay quiet. Derek knew someone was paying. I doubt he cared who. Did they sign anything? I smiled for the first time that morning. My mother signed reimbursement acknowledgments for every vendor transfer. She said it was just for my accountant. Marcus paused. Then he laughed softly. Your mother committed herself in writing and forgot documents have consequences. By lunch, I had a plan. I would not restore a payment. I would not negotiate by phone. Every money conversation would go through Marcus. And I would send one family email nobody could twist. At 1 p.m., I sent it. Effective immediately, I am withdrawing all voluntary support for Derek and Brianna's wedding. I will not pay any fee, contribution, vendor balance, gift minimum, or shortfall. Future communication regarding funds should go to my attorney. My mother replied in 4 minutes. You are dead to me if you do this. I stared at those words, waiting for pain to arrive. It did not. Only relief. That evening, Brianna's mother called me. Her name was Elaine Collins, and unlike my family, she did not shout. Natalie, she said carefully, I am trying to understand what is happening. Derek told us you hacked the wedding accounts. No, I said. I removed my payment authorizations. Your payment authorizations? Yes. Another silence. This one sounded different. This one sounded like a woman realizing her daughter was marrying a liar. I sent Elaine 3 invoices and 1 reimbursement acknowledgement. Nothing dramatic. Just enough truth to start a fire. By the next morning, Brianna had moved out of Derek's apartment. That should have been the end. Of course, my family made sure it was only the beginning. My father arrived at my office at 9:30 a.m. without an appointment. Security called upstairs. On the lobby camera, he was red-faced, wearing his respectable church suit. My assistant asked, "Do you want him sent away?" "No," I said. "Put him in conference room B. Turn on recording." When I entered, my father did not stand. He pointed at me like I was still 17 and late for curfew. "You have 20 minutes to fix this." "No," I said. "I have a meeting in 12. He slammed his palm on the table. "You think your little money makes you powerful?" "No. Boundaries make me powerful. Money just makes them easier to enforce." His face twisted. "Your mother is sick over this. Mother is embarrassed. Those are different things." He leaned forward. "If Derek loses Brianna because of you, I will make sure everyone knows what kind of woman you are." I placed a folder between us. Inside were every payment, message, signed acknowledgement, and the invitation fee card. Then they will know I am the kind of woman who paid $78,000 for a wedding and was rewarded with an invoice. For the first time in my life, my father had nothing to say. But silence did not last. That night, my mother posted on Facebook, "Some daughters grow up bitter and punish their families for choosing joy. Pray for us." Within minutes, cousins began texting. Aunt Carol said I should apologize. Uncle Raymond said money should never divide family. A church friend called jealousy ugly. Nobody asked me what happened. Lazy people outsource the truth to whoever cries first. So I posted one image. Not a rant. Not a paragraph. Just the family honor contribution card beside a redacted vendor invoice showing my company had paid the venue deposit. My caption was 9 words. I stopped funding the wedding I was charged to attend. The internet did what my relatives refused to do. It read. By morning, my mother deleted her post. Derek deactivated his profile. Brianna's cousin sent me a heart emoji. Elaine emailed Marcus for a formal statement. Willowbrook Manor removed Derek and Brianna from the calendar. Then Derek made his second fatal mistake. He sued me. The complaint accused me of intentional interference, emotional distress, financial sabotage, and family fraud, whatever that meant. He claimed I promised to pay for the wedding, then withdrew maliciously to destroy his relationship. My parents submitted statements supporting him. My mother wrote that I had always resented Derek because he was loved more naturally. My father wrote that I used money to control everyone around me. Marcus read the lawsuit aloud in his office, expressionless, until he reached the phrase, emotional terrorism. Then he removed his glasses and said, I have wanted a simple case all month. Discovery was not kind to my family. Bank records showed I had paid vendors directly. Emails showed my mother asking me to hide the payments so Derek could feel proud. Text messages showed Derek joking, "Natalie is good for money. Just keep her feeling guilty." One message from my father to my mother read, "Get what you can from her before she marries some accountant and disappears." Another message showed my mother discussing the $15,000 fee. She wrote, "Natalie will hate it, but she always folds when we mention family." I read that message in Marcus's office and felt nothing break. It had already broken years ago. This was just the sound of the pieces being named. The hearing took place on a gray Monday morning. Derek wore a navy suit and looked smaller than I remembered. My mother dabbed her eyes before anyone spoke. My father stared ahead. Brianna did not attend. By then, the engagement was over. Derek's attorney argued that family promises were morally binding, and that my withdrawal caused catastrophic emotional and financial harm. Marcus replied that my payments were voluntary, conditional, and revocable, and that they had tried to extort the very person subsidizing the event. Then he displayed the fee card. The judge adjusted her glasses. "Mr. Whitman," she asked Derek, "did you send your sister an attendance invoice?" Derek swallowed. "It was not an invoice. It was a contribution request. It says mandatory," the judge said. My mother whispered something. The judge looked at her once, and she went quiet. Then Marcus submitted the text messages. The courtroom went silent as the judge read. Guilt looks different on a courtroom screen. It stops being family drama and becomes evidence. The ruling was swift. Derek's claims were dismissed. My counterclaim under the signed acknowledgments was allowed to proceed. The judge encouraged settlement, using the tone adults use when children bring scissors to a library. 2 weeks later, my parents and Derek agreed to a payment plan. They did not apologize. People like them rarely do. But every month a small deposit arrived in my account from the family that once told me money should never divide us. The first payment cleared on a Friday. That night, I drove to my house by the lake, poured a glass of wine, and opened the wooden box where I had kept the original invitation. For months, I had not been able to throw it away. It felt like proof. Proof of their cruelty. Proof that I had finally seen them clearly. But proof is useful only until freedom no longer needs it. I carried the invitation to the fire pit. The sky was cold, and the lake reflected a thin silver moon. I lit one corner of the velvet envelope. It curled into flame. The wax seal melted last, gold sliding into black ash. I expected to cry. Instead, I laughed. 1 year later, I returned to Willowbrook Manor. Not for Derek, not for Brianna, not for my parents. I rented the venue for a fundraiser, supporting women rebuilding after financial abuse. We filled the ballroom with warm lights, simple flowers, honest music, and people who understood that generosity without boundaries becomes a cage. Elaine Collins attended. So did Brianna. She had started over in another city and looked peaceful in a way I had never seen before. She hugged me and said, "You saved me from marrying into a lie." I told her, "You saved yourself when you listened to the truth." Near the end of the night, Marcus raised a glass and joked that this was the only Willowbrook event in history improved by litigation. Everyone laughed. I looked around the room and realized no one there loved me because I paid their bills. No one demanded a fee for belonging. No one measured family by obedience. My phone buzzed once during dessert. It was my mother. "Your brother is still struggling. I hope you are proud." A year earlier, that message would have hooked into my ribs. I would have wondered if I was cruel, selfish, broken. That night, I read it once and blocked the number. Then I went back to the table, where my real life was waiting. Here's what I learned. Some families do not want your love. They want your usefulness. They dress exploitation in words like loyalty, tradition, sacrifice, and respect. They call you selfish when you stop bleeding for people who never brought a bandage. But walking away from people who consume you is not betrayal. It is rescue. I used to think being the bigger person meant swallowing insult after insult until nobody could accuse me of being difficult. Now I know better. Sometimes being the bigger person means sending the email, canceling the payment, hiring the attorney, blocking the number, and letting spoiled people meet consequences. My brother wanted a wedding that proved he was important. My parents wanted a daughter who paid quietly and disappeared politely. They got the truth, documented, time-stamped, and legally enforceable. And me? I got my name back. That was the day I stopped auditioning for a family role they never intended to give me, and started living on my own terms. If this story reminded you of someone who treated your kindness like an unlimited credit card, share your thoughts. Would you have canceled the payments or paid to keep the peace? Like, subscribe for more stories, and remember this: the people who panic when you set boundaries were benefiting from you having none.